Hello again, Internet.
Hi there.
We're back with more content of the TTRPG stuff.
Yeah.
And there have been some slight changes that we have decided to make with our content moving forward.
It's all around somewhere.
Yeah. We
New
have
overlays,
done a little
new
bit
design.
of a rebranding, as
New
it
name.
were. New name.
Yeah.
Quick reason for that. We just thought it was more inclusive and a better name, changing it a little bit to what we are now going by, which we have thought good 3 or 4 days on. But we decided to go with, why don't you go ahead and drop the bomb?
Fate or Chance.
It's so good. I love the name.
I really like it. It covers a lot of everything about it.
Yes. The artists, the content creators formerly known as Dungeons and Dopes.
So yeah, last week we did our first dive into City Mist. If you haven't played it, it is not as new as I thought it was, but it's amazing. It is very different, much more narrative driven. Yeah, it's very light on the crunch. It's good for, I would say it's really good for new players. Like somebody who's never played a tabletop RPG, is not really used to it. It's really good for them because they can grab anything they know from pop culture or mythology or literally anything that somebody says, yeah, cool, go for it. And say, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be Thor. I'm going to be Magneto. I'm going to be...
Anything you can think of from any comic book, from any mythology, to any legend you've ever heard of.
I'm going to be Hermes.
Yes.
I'm going to be, I don't know, Poseidon or...
You're not really Hermes per se, but you would be the embodiment.
Right. You're his champion, kind of, in a way.
Basically, everybody's a warlock.
Eldritch Blast.
Yeah, everybody's a warlock, in a way. The only dice rolls are 2d6 plus a couple bonuses, which is considered your power. And it's really simple. Anything above 7 or up is a success, and to varying degrees. Anything 6 below is a failure.
Yep.
And what we mean by that is on a 7 to 9, you succeed at what you wanted to do.
Right.
The but is, say you're wanting to try to get information out of somebody. Cool. On a 10 plus, you get you get the information you want. You find a clue. On a 7 to 9, you get the information you want.
But they're holding a little bit back.
They're protecting themselves. They're keeping themselves safe. They're doing everything they can to give you as little as possible. And that happens on investigate and things like that.
What I like too is in one of those two with the checks is like depending on that. Like some of these, it's going to sound super wild, but you as a player, when you make these moves, is what they're called,
right.
Moves, you get to kind of choose the outcome of it to an extent. Like, let's say you get the 6 or the 7 to 9. You're like, well, you get this, but this person gets to ask you a question,
right?
And you can reply to it in the same like retort in
way
which they give you, which is cool.
Yeah, on a 7 to 9, a lot of the time, it is a player's choice. A good example is investigation. Here, you roll a 7 to 9, you succeed, but then you also have to choose one of the following. It exposes you to danger. The clues you get are fuzzy, incomplete, or part true, part false, or whatever you're asking, whoever you're asking, the same thing is asked of you in return.
It's super rad. This is unlike any other tabletop RPG I've played. And I would say that if you haven't played a tabletop RPG that includes D&D or anything else, Cyberpunk, any of that, this is a super awesome and, in my opinion, very simple get to playing quickly kind of thing.
I would even go, like, the newer you are, the less crunchy games you've played, the easier this is to pick up. Coming from a crunchy game standpoint, this is kind of confusing. It's a little bit different. It's definitely outside of my wheelhouse, but I'm really enjoying it. That being said, Starter Kit is free. There'll be a link down there, maybe up here somewhere. We'll put a little tag or something. It's great. It has a pre-made case, and we'll get to that in a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
It's got pre-made case. It's
example
got like
characters.
It's got like 5. I think it's 5 pre-made characters. It's got the basic kind of like rule set. And like he was saying, you can get that off of Drive-Thru RPG, or you can pull it right off of City of Mist. I believe it's .co, I think, maybe.
There's printable character cards, printable status cards, like there's a printable version of most everything. Some of the art in it is amazing.
Oh my God, the
art's
so good.
Really can't wait to get the books. All that being said, talk about your side of it. How was it from a player side?
For transparency, have been wanting to play this game for a long time. I think I picked it up off of some rando YouTube channel I was kind of cruising through, where I just basically hit play and it just played one, and somebody mentioned it. I was like, oh, that sounds kind of wild. I want to check it out. Have been talking to you about wanting to play for a while. After finally playing it, I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and that the way the game basically kind of has you lean into your character on your character sheet when you're going through, and you have your mythos, and you have kind of like your deep questions, like, why do I have these abilities? What is it about me? Why am I the chosen one?
How? He is the one.
You know?
Right.
And when you're going through and you have the identities within your logos themselves, when you don't play into those, when situations come up, and they do, it's called make a hard choice. If you don't play into those, it has a direct impact on your character. So if you choose to avoid these, situations where you never want to back down for a fight, let's say that's what you decided with your logos, and somebody's challenged you and you kind of decide, I don't want to, it affects you.
Yeah.
And you basically take a hit on whatever ability or logos that is directly affiliated with. And once those are all gone, you take the ones that have become weakened, and then they become basically superpowers.
If it's a logos and you take enough hits on it, it eventually becomes a mythos. If it's a mythos and you take enough hits on it, it eventually becomes a logos. If you ever have 3 of either one, whenever you lose the last one that's different. So say you have 3 logos and 1 mythos, and you lose the mythos. Or you have 3 mythos and 1 logos, and you lose the logos. Whenever you lose that, you essentially become like a super powered thing for just a little while, which is really cool.
It's the you're no longer really human, air quote, right. Human on that. Like we were saying before, you basically become the embodiment of whatever or whomever is giving you your abilities.
Right. Or the exact opposite. You become a null field for the supernatural things, and they can't be used around you, and nothing works around you anymore. And what is in the City of Mist, the lore referred to as the Mist, ceases to be around you at all.
I like the idea that they have in it, and it's in the basic rule set too. Once you basically have lost all of your mythos, right? You can basically set out to where, depending on how you want to, like maybe you could be scorned, or you've completely shunned the idea completely, to where anything within your presence is nullified of its abilities, right, and stuff like that, which is weird because you're kind of just like, well, isn't that kind of like a superpower?
You're in a void zone.
Isn't that in Heroes? Yeah, a little bit.
It's really cool. From my side of it, what they call the MC, man, is this so much different than D&D. D&D, while this does have prep, and you make a case, and it's kind of an investigation, you send your players down the chase on it, and drop clues here and there, and you have to have clues lined out, and you have to have the case lined out with a big capstone at the end and stuff, and point A to point B, and there's multiple ways to get there if you want there to be. Very D&D quest line, but it's so much simpler. There's no, oh, hey, here's monsters. It's, okay, the players picked a fight. Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, the players rolled bad. This thing happens in response. It's all, as from the MC side of things, it's all reactionary.
100%. Even I think on the player side, it's absolutely the same way. It's very cinematic, and it keeps the flow going. And
it's
even reading,
very fast paced.
It is, and I think that's what makes me like it so much. Is I love D&D. Don't get me wrong, and I will say that till I'm 6 feet under. But you reach those lull moments sometimes in combat where you're sitting there and you're fighting, and then we're kind of sitting. And then you're sitting there and you're waiting for it to come back to your turn, and then you've got another person in your party sitting there.
Eldritch Blast. Yeah, I have 2 targets now. 300 feet. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and
okay, cool.
Spear. So
okay. Okay, about 10 minutes.
Yeah, cool. I'm just go back and that's what does not happen in this.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is if you have a scenario where there's a big moment that's happening, and your MC has set up a situation to where you can react. Is like, this guy's getting closer to you. What do you do? they keep progressing, and if you don't,
yeah, the MC makes a move and says, "Okay, cool, you didn't do anything. You sat there and spun your wheels. This happens." And you just kind of go around the table in a circle, and everybody gets this chance to do something in response.
It's definitely heavy on the co-op storytelling, more so than I would say kind of like a traditional D&D campaign for sure. In that it's more in the moment. You have repercussions if you don't act.
Right. You have repercussions if you act too much and your rolls go badly.
Exactly.
Even an investigate roll rolling 6 or below, things could go south.
It's not just a hit or miss like it is in D&D.
Like,
everything has a repercussion.
The best example I could use, and we were doing a little test, kind of quick run through it just to see how things go. Somebody was trying to convince a person to give information.
Right.
They rolled, I think a 7 was one of them. And it was, okay, cool, yeah, you get the information. They're looking for a lost kid. Cool, you get the information. What you see, the downside to that is you also discover that mom's abusive.
Yeah.
100%. It doesn't have to be that dark, but this game plays really well into the dark side of real things, and because that's what comic books are set up for. That's what mythology is set up for. It's all the dark stuff with the heroes coming out on top and making everything right, and that it works really well for that.
And with the whole idea of the game itself being the players themselves are spin it however you want, like detectives, private investigators, some kind of agents, or just some kind of people just trying to figure things out.
I want you to tell all your friends about me. I'm Batman.
It's very much kind of like a whodunit, and it's what makes it really, really different to me, and I think that's why I like it so much.
Was there anything that you didn't like about it, or things that you're maybe having to just adjust to because it's so different, because there isn't really any crunch?
100% the adjustment period is going to come from the different moves that you make as a player, in my opinion. Everything from change the game to like the convincing, that's basically kind of like your deception checks and stuff like that. That all makes sense. But like your take a risk, your go toe to toe, your change the game, all these different things can kind of get a little confusing, because a lot of these different moves can apply in different ways, or the move you're trying to make can fall under such a big category of things.
And it's weird because I feel like it's very much made for a small group, 2-3 players. That's it. I feel like if you get more than that, people are trying to do things and they get ahead of each other, or one counteracts what another person's doing. I wouldn't know. We did it with 2 players and it was amazing. I feel like 3 players would be equally amazing. I feel like getting beyond that, 4 players, 5 players, I don't even want to think about more. I feel like a lot of people would clash. I feel like there would be a lot of, I wanted to do the thing. Okay, well, I want to do this thing. And they're at odds with each other in a way.
And the game itself, too, gives you the opportunity to actually go against other players. It does, because even after you wrap up a session, for example, you get the points where it's like it's help or hurt. And the hurt option, you have to basically have it before you can start doing stuff like this, where you can either, for example, this person's doing something I don't want them to do. I want this to happen, or I want to stop them from doing this kind of thing. Which is fine, because it's in the game, and it's one of the things that you can do, and it's mentioned, but it's not really PvP per se, because it's one of those weird situations where you're like, okay, this guy, for example, is trying to fight this dude. He wants to back down. He's got beef with me too. I can't back down. So if I choose to back down, I'm going to take the crack on one of my abilities. So I have to. So conflict is for sure going to be a thing in this, but handling it in a way that you can still work together is what's going to make this game good.
And that takes a special group. I mean, that's part of why I like this for a small group. It's easier to be kind of everybody either being, well, everybody being not necessarily on the same page, but kind of in the same vein. We're all moving in the same direction eventually. and it just keeps things flowing faster too. It keeps things moving a lot faster. That being said, from the pre-made case had some issues for us. The hooks and the pacing were a little bit off, in my opinion. It felt more like the missing person at the beginning should have been somebody else. One side of what they call the iceberg is start with a few hooks and then work your way down to the end of the case. One whole side of it felt almost pointless with the way that it worked out. And I'm, different groups handle it differently. We come in from a D&D side of things, so we have our different expectations. We handle things differently, but it feels very much more, here's a story, here's a case, let's work through the story, as opposed to, here's a world, go play. And I'm very much a sandbox D&D runner, so it's a lot different for me.
The way the pre-made cases go, and there's two of them. There's one that's a Halloween base, and the one that we finished, which was V is for what?
V is for vector.
I thought it was like V is for viral.
No, V is for vector. Vector was the virus.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I thought it was, anyways, same.
Yeah.
It's very linear in that the way the modular was set up. If players essentially don't go to certain areas, they won't get certain information.
Important information.
Yeah.
It's one of those that's easy to miss, and unless you just throw it at the players, like, okay, you didn't find the clue, but here's this information. If they miss it, once they get to the end, you're left in the situation that you are, where it feels.
I felt very not confused, but it didn't have that climax that I thought it was going to hit.
I don't know. It had some pacing issues.
It threw the line, started reeling it back, started pulling in real slow, and just when I feel like it started getting the hook set, it broke the hook.
yeah, absolutely. But that also could just be us.
Right.
It could be me not having experience with this kind of game. It could be me not knowing how to do clues better, and it might change down the road. But it's definitely something to consider if you're going into this and you read over it, and be aware that there's a chance that you might just have to say, hey, here's this information. That being said, this is just kind of a quick...
It's like a snapshot, like what our first impressions, 100%.
I do want to do another one of these down the road after we've played for a couple months or something like that, and be like, now that we're used to it, now that we've been making our own stuff for it, here's kind of more of our thoughts on this, kind of a wrap up for this too.
And if you want to catch those sessions live, that's every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Central.
6 p.m. Central.
Yeah, I'm getting used to the time difference. On twitch.tv/drop the name.
Fader Chance.
Yeah.
Right up here.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for all the support. We appreciate each and every one of you. Stay awesome. Be excellent to each other. And don't forget to love each other. Peace.
Bye-bye. Cool. I'm going to let mine run because I'm one of those guys. I'm always running. I never stop. I never sleep.